What is freedom? This is what Ernest says freedom is. Freedom means to eliminate from consciousness all those things that bind and limit the free flowing of the divine spirit through us, and at the same time, to exercise the faculty of personal choice. So as our songs illustrated this morning, spirit is constantly flowing through us. And when we get to that place where we recognize it flowing through us and we stop doing the things that inhibit the flow of it, then we experience a greater sense of freedom in our lives. We get to a place where it comes naturally and things don't seem as difficult. And once we've experienced that, I say this a lot, once I know something, I can't unknow it. And this is the same thing with freedom. Once I've experienced that freedom, that sense of spirit moving through itself, making itself express through me, then I can't get to a place where I don't know that anymore. Because then everything that I do that is contrary to that is very obvious and feels very wrong when we do it. And so this idea of allowing spirit to move through us easily and effortlessly is a key point to freedom. Up there. So, the power of the question. And I've talked about this frequently throughout this past year for sure. There is something inherently powerful in the type of questions that we ask ourselves. How do I get to a place where I can experience freedom in a more consistent way in my life? It's a great question to ask. But if I'm stuck in the middle of some kind of a challenge and I'm saying, how the heck am I ever going to get out of this? There's a whole different feeling to that. Listen to those questions. You can feel the energy of that second question versus that first question. What can I do to move through this? Is a lot different than how am I going to get out of it? There's an energy there, an energetic feeling to it that puts us in a different frame of mind. In that first question, there's possibility. There is a wanting to change it in a way that I know I need to take personal responsibility and do that. In that second question, it's more of a victim thing. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't deal with this anymore. How am I going to get out of it? There's a whole different feeling that goes along with that. These powerful questions that we can ask ourselves really begin to shift our lives. One of my favorite authors is Joel Goldsmith, and he says it many times in many different ways. The quality of our life is determined by the quality of the questions that we ask. If I'm asking these higher level consciousness questions, like what is here for me to know, versus those lower level consciousness questions like why is this happening to me, there's a whole different feeling in it, and it's a whole different result that comes because of that. One of the things that we can begin to do is to actually use questioning in our spiritual practices. And so many of you know that I have a spiritual practice. I started it in the fall of 2015. Did it a little bit then, and then I decided to up-level my spiritual practices. I generally do that at the beginning of the year. And I decided to do this practice consistently. And the practice involves drawing. I think this is the next slide, if I remember correctly. There we go, yes. So, I draw mandalas. I do this as a spiritual practice. Generally every morning I draw one. This happens to be the mandala that I drew on December 5th, 2016. Now I know that date, first off, because when I put them in my computer, it gives me the date, which is really nice. But I know that date because it was very significant in my life. As I said, I ask questions when I go into my spiritual practices. Sometimes the question is specific to whatever I'm going through at the time, whatever challenge I happen to be having. I'll ask a question that's very directed towards that. But most often, I ask the question, what do I need to know today? It's a great way to start my morning. I sit down, I get my paper out. These are done on small cards. They're 3.5-inch square cards. So I get my paper out and I hold it in my hand and I kind of feel it, and I got my pens, and everything's all set up because that's the way I like things. It's all set up on my desk there, and I'm ready to begin my practice. And then I just close my eyes as I'm feeling the paper, and I ask myself the question. And so I asked this day on December 5th, what do I need to know today? And what I love about this idea of asking the question, is I get answers very quickly. I get responses very quickly. And because I've done this questioning so much, I really can discern whether it's my own ego trying to keep me from playing safe, keep me stuck in that situation, versus Spirit coming up with some kind of idea. Generally, well, one way to tell it apart is sometimes they're really outlandish, what comes through from Spirit. But this day, I asked the question, what do I need to know today? And very quickly, I heard, you need to start wearing ties. Now, that's kind of out there, right? That's kind of an out there kind of statement for that. And I thought, okay, so what does that mean? And I'm not one to jump into things very quickly, so I'm like, what does that mean for me to start wearing ties? So the first thing I started doing was, hit Amazon to see what kind of ties were out there. Then I went to YouTube to see what people were wearing and how that worked. And so it was, again, December, so I thought, this feels so right. This feels like this is actual information that I need to follow. But how can I do this? This is not my style. This is not who I am. How do I begin to wear ties? And it was Christmas time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to buy Christmas ties because, it's Christmas and people just think, oh, she's just being festive. They won't question it at all. So this is the very first tie I bought. This is a red and white striped one. I like narrow ties. I don't like the wide ties, so I found this one that was very narrow and so forth. So this is the very first tie I ever wore. I had no idea how to tie a tie, so YouTube, here we come. You can find anything on YouTube. So I watched several videos on how to tie a tie, and I decided, well, a Windsor knot was going to be a lot more simple than a double Windsor knot or some of those other things. They were just really confusing. So I thought, okay, I can do this. This is simple, clean, nice, and look. So on Christmas Eve, 2016, I put on my red and white striped tie. I wore a white shirt, put a nice green sweater over it. I looked very festive. And I didn't really get very many comments or anything like that. But and I wasn't looking for comments, but it was a way that I could ease into it. But I have to tell you, when I put that on, it was absolutely indescribable what happened inside of me. The shift that happened inside of me was one of complete confidence. It wasn't that I wasn't confident before, but this up-leveled it to a place I had never been before in my life. It up-leveled my sense of self. Now, I usually get questions about this. Is like, I get a lot of questions about my ties, but the one that usually comes, and it comes with a bit of a tone to it, what's up with the tie? That's the question I get most often. I love my trans brothers and sisters. I am not transitioning. I do not have any desire to be a man. I don't want to change who I am. But I feel exceptionally aligned when I put on the tie. I feel like the outside of me is matching the inside of me. And it opened up things in my life in a way that I could never, ever imagine, opening them up. Just the simple act of wearing a tie. I wear one most times when I'm doing anything professionally. I wore them a lot more at the beginning. I'm starting to, this summer has been really hot. I'm not putting a tie on most of the time, but I will wear them when I'm speaking on a Sunday and so forth. The phrase that comes to my mind when I think about this is a phrase that a friend of mine used when she was talking to me one day, describing how she was experiencing me. And she said, "You are walking in the world with an unapologetic confidence." Now imagine that, walking through the world with an unapologetic confidence. Like, I don't have to worry or apologize for who I am or how I show up in the world. Now, you want to talk about personal freedom? That, to me, is it. I can be who I am, showing up the way that I feel comfortable showing up, and not have to be concerned about anyone else. There's something else that's involved in this idea of freedom, and that is an idea of courage. Because it takes a lot of courage to be authentically yourself, to live in a way that works for you more than anything else ever has. Now, this should be my Robert Frost quote, but let's see. There we go, yes. So Robert Frost said this in an interview one day. Robert Frost, the poet. He said, people will tell you that freedom lies in being cautious. Freedom lies in being bold. Freedom lies in being bold. There is something very powerful, very uplifting, very affirming, and very freeing about being who you are, who you came here to be, who you're meant to be. And showing up authentically is the ultimate expression of freedom in our lives. So I love poetry, and this one is from Anais Nis. I actually have it on the wall in my office. This is my picture from my office. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Have you ever experienced that? That's what I felt when I started wearing the tie. That I was no longer willing to remain tight and closed off, but I was willing to blossom and let the world see who I am. To me, that was a great uplifting experience in my life. Now, who do you follow when you are seeking this experience of freedom? I love the way Rumi puts it here. When setting out on a journey, do not seek advice from someone who has never left home. If I was to ask those people who say, what's up with the tie, what they think about my tie, I'm going to hear that. But you know what? I have a feeling that they've never left home. That their experience of living an authentic life is probably limited by their belief system and probably limited a little bit by fear. So I don't ask those people. I ask the people that I know have also experienced freedom in this way of living authentically, this way of journeying to that sense of personal freedom that we can't get in so many other ways. This is about opening up to who we really meant to become as we are journeying through our life experience. You know, many different saints and sages say it in lots of different ways, but the only thing we take with us when we leave here is our elevated consciousness. So do I want to stay in that same place of fear and worry and doubt, thinking about what other people feel about me or think about me? My consciousness is not going to evolve very much. And more than likely, I'll get to experience it again in the next time I come around. But if I can get myself to a place of elevated consciousness, where these things are no longer issues in my life, then I am taking with me when I leave the freedom that I've gained in this life experience. And I think that's the ultimate thing that we can do on this journey in life, is to find those things that open us up and lift us up in a way that can't be changed afterwards. Let's see if I think I've got this right now. My next one should be a wonderful poem by Maya Angelou. Ah, yes. So this is from her book, And Still I Rise. As I said, I've been reading that. This poem is called Phenomenal Woman. I don't have all of it in here because it's kind of long, but I love this because of the way it speaks to who we are when we are in that place of elevated consciousness, when we are embodying the freedom that we're meant to be. So pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model's size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling them lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms and the span of my hips, the stride of my steps and the curl of my lips. I am a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. It's in the fire in my eyes and the flash of my teeth and the swing of my waist and the joy in my feet. It's the arch of my back and the sun of my smile and the ride of my breast and the grace of my style. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels and the bend of my hair and the palm of my hand and the need for my care, because I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. All right, let's take this into prayer. I invite our spiritual practitioners to stand and surround us. They hold us in consciousness each week, and they are certainly willing to pray with you after service. Oh, we have quite a few here today. Wonderful. All right. And so if you would, just settle into your seat. And if you're okay with it, just go ahead and close your eyes. Take in a nice breath. And open ourselves up to everything that is available to us in this moment. And so right here and right now, I know that there is only one phenomenal divine presence, one power, one grace, one love, one life. That one shows up in an infinite number of forms, through all life, through all creation, through all that has ever been and all that is yet to be. For nothing exists outside of this one. And it is called many things and goes in many forms. But today I simply know it as God. And I know that God is all there is. And because I know that God is all there is, I know that I am one with it. That divine presence resides right at the heart of my being. That the isness and the allness and the fullness of life is moving through me right here and right now. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each one of us, for we are all a unique and perfect emanation of that divine, loving, creative intelligence that loved so much it could do nothing but create from itself. And all was made in perfection and wholeness and love. And so knowing this truth, I speak my word. I know that each one of us is destined to a life of freedom. That each one of us is on a journey to finding that freedom for ourselves. A personal, irrevocable, unstoppable path to wholeness. I know that this is our highest and greatest goal, is to reach that pinnacle of freedom. To reach it in every aspect of our lives, through our relationships, through our health, through our wealth, through our jobs, through everything that we do in acts of service and love to our entire world. I know that we are blessed. And I simply give thanks for this knowing. I'm so grateful to feel it, to see it happening, to sense it in the world around me. And I release this word into the law, into that creative mind of spirit that knows no limits, that is always saying yes. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.